Welcome to another episode of Jay Leno's Garage. We have something very special here. This is the car you've seen on the cover of almost every automobile magazine the last few months. Not one just like it, the actual car, because this is, fair to say, a prototype, a pilot car, I guess you'd call it. This is the new Viper. This is not a Dodge anymore. It is now an SRT. This is a Viper GTS. I've been a Viper guy since the beginning. That's my first one there. Looks pretty primitive compared to this one. That's a 1993. That was the very first black car. 400 horsepower. Back in 92, that was unbelievable. The most powerful car you could get was the Corvette with 350. So when this came out with 400, which nowadays doesn't seem like much, but back in 92, it was a revelation. People just went crazy for this car. They paid double, triple list. And then when that calmed down a little bit, they came out with this one here. And this was a way more sophisticated version of that. This was the coupe. I still love the looks of this car. You know, Pete Brock, who designed the Shelby, the Cobra Fastback, this lends itself to that. I always love the look of this car. And you know, this car is, God, what, 17 years old? Still looks contemporary. I drive this and people still think it's a car that's just 2 or 3 years old. This is a modern supercar, I think, that could rival just about any supercar in the world. And the fact is, it's classic American. Big V10, massive amounts of torque and horsepower. You know, the thing I love about American supercars is for a third of what you'd pay in a European car to get 600, well over 600 horsepower, you have to go to Lamborghini or Ferrari or any of these guys and pay upwards of $200,000, $300,000. This can run with any of those guys for a third of the price and look just as good. Let's bring in Beth Paretta. Beth, come on in. Beth, you're head of marketing for SRT, right?
I am.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see
Very
you.
cool. Now, this is no longer a Dodge, right? This is
It's not.
SRT is a brand.
SRT is a brand. Street and Racing Technology has now
Okay.
been elevated to brand, so it's the pinnacle product portfolio of the Chrysler portfolio.
Now, what else falls under SRT brand?
There is the Challenger, the Dodge Challenger.
Oh, okay.
There's the Challenger SRT, the Charger,
Okay.
the 300.
So it's not the Dodge Challenger SRT?
It kind of is. We're still
Well, you're
working
still on
through
that. Okay, working on
Yeah,
that one. Okay.
Exactly. So it's the Charger and the Challenger are Dodge, and then
Okay.
the Chrysler 300 and the Jeep Grand Cherokee.
I see. Okay,
So
very
those are
good.
the four, and then this is the flagship.
Very good. Well, again, classic Viper styling. No one's going to ever mistake it for anything else.
Right. The proportions are similar.
And the thing I spotted right off the bat, you know, I've seen this magazine on the cover of, God, every European car magazine, plus Car and Driver, Automobile. And this is the actual car, isn't
That's
it?
the actual car. This
Yeah.
is the car we showed at the New York Auto Show when we
Right.
revealed the car, the big sort of final unveiling of this car. This
And
is
probably, besides the upgraded styling and some other features, the new interior is really unbelievable. That's really world class with the stitching and the leather. Take us through that. I love the drilled pedals.
Absolutely. You'll see these seats are the same seats that it's the same brand that supplies Ferrari. It's Sawbelt, the leather quality, the same vendors, and that's really what will make this different. As soon as you get into this, if
Right.
I didn't tell you what brand it is, you wouldn't even know. And now you see that this is what is befitting an SRT Viper.
And the other thing that it has now, which is also mandated by law, ABS braking and
Correct.
traction control. All cars in America now must have some form of traction control and
Exactly.
ABS.
Right.
But being Viper, of course, you can turn it off.
You
and
can.
You can
You
turn it off.
can take this car on the track, of
Right.
course, as a track mode. But what's really exciting technology-wise, we now have launch control.
Right.
So you have all of this power, all of this torque. Now you can control it a little bit better when you are.
Now, why do you
coming
need launch
offline.
control with a stick? It seems to me you just take it to 3 or 4, whatever you want. and
Not
dump the
everybody's
clutch.
as skilled as they.
But it seems like launch control is something for an automatic car. But that's okay. But
yeah.
you don't have to use that
You
if
don't
you
have
don't
to
want
use
it.
it, no,
That's,
no.
that's the cool thing
And
about
the
it.
car is a 6-speed manual, as you said. And
Right.
the other thing that's exciting is having all the creature comforts. Because realistically, I mean, for as much time, I mean, you could actually have this car as a daily driver. It's not crude, so there is
Right.
navigation and performance pages where you can see your lap times, your quarter mile. all
Well, the
that
funny
stuff.
thing is, when I got this Viper back in '96, this is one of the very first coupes, it had air conditioning. Ooh, oh my God. And Viper guys, ooh, they stand, oh my God, a
Right,
Viper with that.
right.
Because with that, there was no
Right.
air, there was no nothing.
You're a sissy.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
don't need
that
air
was- yeah,
conditioning,
that's what it
please.
was. That's what it was.
Exactly.
That was meant to be, that was Bob Lutz's vision of the modern Cobra, the
Yeah.
next generation Cobra.
Right.
And that's the car that made Corvette up their ante as well. You know, and when when they sold as many of that as they had to sell, they then went to the coupe because not everybody wanted a convertible. You can't really lock that car. It's a lot like a Harley or a motorcycle. You just kind of park it and then you stand around it to make sure nobody comes around. This one you could drive and lock and had air conditioning and again, no ABS, no traction control, none of that. But still a great car. I love driving both of these. And 640 horsepower. I mean, think about that. You really have to go to the top of the line Ferrari FF or any of those to get that kind of power. And of course, it's made in America and just a lot of low-end torque. Yep. And it's just a big V10. You fix it with a hammer. It's pretty simple. You know, they're pretty bulletproof motors. Let's talk about the styling. Let's bring in our designer.
Absolutely.
Come on in. Mark Trostle. Okay, now you're head designer right under Ralph. Is that correct?
Yep, I report to Ralph on this.
Tell us about it. Lighter chassis as well?
Yeah, and that's, to your point, I mean, that was one of the things that was our main goal, is that the Viper really is an iconic vehicle. And in the profile, the long hood, it's just, you know, it screams horsepower. And we didn't want to walk away from that. We really wanted to keep that. And we wanted to go back to the soul of this car, the 96 car, if you will, and kind of send it to the gym. You know, the shapes are a little bit more muscular. Fix the, you know, some things wheel to body, like you point out. We put the wheels and then put the car around it, so everything is.
And you know, it's a real labor of love building a car like this, because a couple of years ago, I would get these emails, Viper's gone, it's shut down. Then they're selling the name. Some guy in Texas bought Viper. They're going to build them in a garage somewhere. And I thought, oh, geez, what's that all about? And it just seemed like in this economy, these kind of cars were going to go away. But you know, people like to dream. And when, you know, in the 30s, when you had rough times, they come out with the Busby Berkeley musicals, and they had V16 Cadillacs, and you make exciting products, you know. When the economy is bad, you make something that people really aspire and want. And this is a classic example of this, you know. It's like, look, times are rough, let's build a dream car. And this is something that I think people can really aspire to and want. Can we open the hood and see what's different?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, if you know anybody that works in the body shop business, this hood on that Viper and that Viper was the single most expensive American part to replace on any American car. At least it was into the earlys and 90s. Looks like you've saved a little bit. Boy, it's a beautiful piece, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to be cheap either.
It won't be cheap, but it is beautiful. Absolutely. You know,
but you're not picking it up from down here. It's truly a hood now. It doesn't take in the whole side of the car like that.
And you know, the 2010 Viper had more of a conventional style hood, and we wanted to get back to that because there's something heroic about that, just like the rest of the car, and that you open the whole hood up to see.
And obviously for chassis rigidity, look at this. I always call those Monte Carlo bars because that's the first time I saw them when I was a kid. They used to have them on the Falcons and the Ford when they ran the Monte Carlo rally for bracing. It was the first time I ever saw them, and that's what they referred to it then. They don't now. I guess it's just a chassis brace, isn't it? But, and to get the engine out, obviously, it's pretty simple. You just take those bolts out of there.
And the great thing about the car is, you know, even though we don't like to use the word refinement so much because it's still a Viper. When you drive it, it's still a Viper. You still hear the engine, and it does all the right things. Yeah,
it's nicely done, nicely detailed under the hood. If you look under the hood of either of my other two Vipers, they can be a little bit crude, but that's okay. And of course, being a big classic American V10, I've never had overheating issues or anything of that nature with mine. I mean, it's a motor that's now been around, my God, over 20 years, so pretty sophisticated. 2 valves. Yeah, you know, you got your cam in the block, so it's you got a low center of gravity on the motor itself. Nicely done. 6-speed, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, what is the weight of this compared to that Viper?
It's just under 3,300 pounds.
Oh, is that light, huh? 3,300.
Yeah.
Now that's 3,300. You're also including steel door guards, airbags, everything that this Viper doesn't have. That one was pretty heavy back in the day. This car, with 240 horsepower more, and a roof and air and is lighter than that car, which is pretty. And that was considered light back in the day.
That's the beauty of the aluminum doors and the carbon fiber.
And this whole piece opens as well, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Can we open that up?
Yep. And just like under the hood, you know, all the exposed carbon on it.
The level of detail here.
And that's exactly what we've done. We've tried to design everything. If you look at the tail lamp, see the snakeskin texture in there. So we call them Easter eggs. You know, we've tried to design these pieces that our customers will fall in love with.
And this is carbon fiber here, right?
Carbon fiber, correct.
It's not faux carbon fiber.
No
faux carbon fiber. Now, nicely done. Oh, I see the gas cap is now moved to here. And now that opens obviously from the inside.
Yeah.
Is it electric? Okay.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. I kind of like it up here. I didn't mind it up here.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
kind of cool, but that was another era.
A functional brake duct as well.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay.
it allowed us to, kind of change the shape up a little bit too.
Something I noticed right off the bat, the rigidity of these doors. On mine, it's a fiberglass door. You can feel a little bit of play. You know, when you're a Viper owner, there are certain things you accept, you know, in the early cars. And you accept the fact that it wasn't particularly sophisticated, and it was kind of built by guys like, almost like hot rodders in that Connors Avenue plant. But I like that part of it. But, you know, as you move along and you get into the 21st century, you have to kind of kick it up a bit. And this is a classic example of that. It's beautifully done. What is this, about 110,000 approximately, somewhere in that
There's
area?
two models. There'll be
Yeah.
the SRT Viper, and then this is the SRT Viper GTS.
Okay.
And it'll be a little bit more than that. We haven't announced pricing yet. We'll do that probably in the next
Okay.
2 months or
Now,
so.
the difference is mostly trim, level?
Exactly. So
Okay.
this one will have a lot more of the creature comforts, but we still are making the base model Viper to be more for that purist enthusiast, also that person that might want to be using it more for a track application, maybe doesn't need the everyday stuff.
So
like
is
this.
air conditioning standard, or is that an option?
No, it's
Okay.
all standard.
Let's see what it sounds like. That factory? That stock?
Yeah.
That's stock.
But
It sounds just about perfect, so very, very cool. Now, this is the only one there is right now. You might remember back in the 60s when Carl Shelby did the Cobra, he had just one, and he kept taking it back and painting it different colors, and everybody thought there was a whole bunch of them. This is the pilot car, basically. So we can't take this out for a road test. But when they come offline, we'll get one and we'll take you for a ride. But it's fun to be able to look at the car. This is the very car that you've seen, as I said, in all the magazines, and Evo and Octane and Car and Driver and Road and Track. People have just gone nuts for this. I haven't read one bad thing about it. People like the styling, they like the look of the car, and it's classic Viper, just kicked up a notch. So very impressive, guys. Will you bring one back when we can actually drive?
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, you
Thank
guys.
you.
See you next week.